Nancy Lucina, and today I want to share with you my top 10 tips about how to prepare for having a natural childbirth. So these tips are more about what you can do now during pregnancy so that you have a higher chance of actually having that gentle birth, that unmedicated birth that you desire. So tip number 1 is to hire a doula. A doula is a trained birth professional, and she's kind of like your cheerleader, masseuse, coach, all wrapped up in one. She is not a replacement for your midwife or your doctor, as she's not a medically trained professional, but she is going to be fantastic at holding space for you, helping to work through your fears, preparing you really on emotional levels, spiritual levels, and physical levels. She is not going to kick your husband or your partner aside, as some people might think. She actually works really beautifully with everyone and even helps your partner to be more involved. So if that's a worry of your husband's, that he's going to get kicked out of the party if you hire a doula, please reassure him. Everybody I've ever worked with, the husbands always thank me at the end, and they're so happy that they had a doula there. So tip number 2 is to process any kind of traumas that you might have. Our womb spaces really store imprints energetically about our past, things that have happened, specifically around our own births. Like how were you born? That's a really good question to ask your mom, if possible, and to see if there's any kind of traumas there, because sometimes those can come up in your own labor. Also, if you've had any kind of sexual abuse, to try to process that as fully as you can before you go into labor is really going to help you, so that you can be a really clear channel for that energy to flow through. And also, if you're a woman who's already given birth before and it didn't go as planned, and maybe there was something really traumatic in there for you, please try to process that as well, so that, again, you go in with a really clear energy in your labor. I really like the method of birth art to help you process those kind of past experiences, as well as working with a coach if you need a deeper kind of support. Tip number 3 is tap into your intuition. I refer to our intuition as our superpower as women, and especially when we're pregnant, we have such a deep access to it. That inner wisdom, that inner wise woman, the inner goddess is kind of what I like to refer to that presence as. So this is going to really help you, because if you're a woman who desires that natural birth, it might really feel like swimming upstream from the rest of the crowd. And you're going to be getting all this advice thrown at you all at once. And if you have that strong intuition, you're going to be able to feel when something lands. And when that advice comes at you, you're going to be able to feel, is this right for me? Is this right for my baby? And if not, you can move along. So really learning to tap into that is going to help you a lot when you enter into your labor, because then you're going to be able to really lean back on that intuition whenever you're going through your labor. Tip number 4, get in touch and feel comfortable with expressing your sensuality throughout your pregnancy, but also in your labor. There's a famous quote by midwife Ina May Gaskin, and it says, "Whatever gets the baby in, gets the baby out." So in other words, what kind of conditions do you need in place to help you really open in that way that you need to open during labor? For me, that's being allowed to be in my sensuality, to feel pleasure when it's there, because there are a lot of really pleasurable moments in birth. And when you open up for that sensuality, you actually increase the oxytocin that can flow through your body. Oxytocin, if you may not know, is a very helpful hormone that you want flowing. They call it the hormone of love. So getting sensual with your partner, that doesn't mean sexual, but doing some eye gazing, for example, doing some hugging, even doing some kissing during contractions can really help you to open up more smoothly and with less pain. Tip number 5, work through your fears. This one is a really big one. A lot of women kind of who want that natural birth really get knocked off their feet when they go into it, because they just didn't realize the kind of work that really needed to go in, and a lot of fears come up for them, and it's that fear that really can contract the body and then cause more pain to happen, and then you get into that negative loop. So the more you can work through your fears during pregnancy, the better you're going to be. And they might be small fears or big fears, but just try to get to the bottom of those, because really at the bottom of those is our power wrapped up in that too. An energy that you can have access to if you can uncover those. I like to work with hypnosis for fears, or to work with a coach, so that you can really kind of dig in there, because sometimes you can't see it fully yourself. So getting another person's reflection can really help. Tip number 6 is gather a supportive birth team around you. So beyond just your doula, who is going to be with you? Are you going to work with a midwife? Are you going to give birth at home? Are you going to work with a gynecologist and give birth in the hospital? Or perhaps you're going to work at a birth center. It's really important to recognize where you can actually draw your support from, because just don't be naive when you go into a hospital that has a 60% cesarean section rate and think that you're going to get that natural birth you desire. Really find those people and those places that are going to fully support your dream birth. So getting in touch with your dream birth and then finding that supportive birth team is going to help you tremendously, because you want people around you who will go above and beyond to make that happen for you. And so you really want to ask a lot of questions to your care providers. Have they actually seen a fully unmedicated birth? Have they really been a part of that kind of natural birth? Tip number 7, stay in your body. Stay grounded in your body. I do this through patience, presence, and breath. Those 3 words really help me a lot. Patience, presence, breath. So practicing those 3 words during pregnancy and then bringing them into your labor can help, because birth is really a chance to enter into this really timeless space where, you're not going to be on the clock, ideally. Because your body, every woman's body has a really unique way of opening. Some women it can take 4 days, some women it can take 4 hours. It really just depends. But going in with that patience is going to help you a lot to just surrender into each moment. And then the presence is going to help you to stay in each moment. So if a strong wave comes in, I like to call contractions waves, then, instead of going like, oh, what about the next one? How am I going to be able to handle that? Remind yourself to come back to the present moment, and you can do that through your breath. So creating some kind of daily practice in your pregnancy to work with those 3 words can be really helpful to ground yourself in your body, because it's really when you get up in the mind that you can halt the process of birth by going up into this kind of panic state and these fears and these future thoughts. But really just getting back down into the body, back in the present moment is going to be super beneficial for you. Tip number 8, surrender. This is one of my absolute favorite words. I use it all the time, and it's my top advice for women who are in any kind of birth, because that energy that pulses through you in labor is really strong, really big, and it's just really something that you've never experienced before. I mean, it's so undescribable if you've never given birth before. And when it comes through, it can be kind of like, oh, what is this? Surrender as much as you possibly can, because that energy that's coming through you has an intelligence of its own, and it is going to do its thing through your body if you can just allow it to. So when in doubt, surrender. And tip number 9. This one's kind of counterintuitive, but it's really helpful. And tip number 9 is to make peace with your plan B. So plan B is your backup plan. What happens if the birth doesn't go as smoothly as you want it to, and you can't get that natural birth that you want? How are you going to feel about that plan B? A lot of women who desire a natural birth, they might have a lot of resistance to having a cesarean or having any other kind of medicated birth, with a lot of interventions. And of course, I totally get that, and that makes a lot of sense. But it is that exact resistance that can sit inside of your being that can actually attract that situation happening, oddly enough. So what I like to do with my clients is to get them to find out what their core desired feeling is that they want for their birth experience. So regardless of the external circumstances, regardless of the natural or unnatural, whatever, how do you want to feel during that experience and after that experience? For some women, that might be empowerment. For other women, it might be softness, It might be connection to nature. You know, there can be so many different core desired feelings depending on the woman. So finding out what that is, and then seeing how, if plan B had to happen, how could you still make that core desired feeling possible? That can really help you to make peace with that, so that then you go into labor without that kind of resistance. So again, we want to be clear channels for the energy to work through us in labor. I highly recommend, when working through this tip, to look into gentle cesareans. So a gentle cesarean is a kind of a new way of doing cesareans where you can get immediate skin-to-skin contact, for example, delayed cord cutting. There's all kinds of different tips online around that, and sometimes that can help you make peace with a possible backup plan. And my last tip is to boost your confidence, and do this by surrounding yourself with like-minded women. This is something that I think we've done in ancient societies. You know, we surrounded ourselves with our tribe, our support system in that way. And again, if you're desiring that natural birth, it can really feel like you're swimming upstream from the rest of society. So getting into these groups with women who have already gone through natural birth or who are planning to themselves can really help boost your confidence. In my online birth course, I include an online sisterhood on Facebook where we support each other in this way, and it's just so helpful to really boost that confidence. So if you don't have that in your immediate area, you can always find one online. So those are my top tips. I hope those help you out, and stay tuned for more videos on natural birth. Thank you.